Imagine stepping into the Janpod Civil Hospital morgue. We're talking about a place with roots stretching way back before independence. It's got those classic peeling yellow walls, and it's shoved way at the very back of the compound. You know, the kind of place you only ever visit if you absolutely have to. And right at the center of our mystery today is Dr. Prachi. She's a newly appointed 32-year-old forensic specialist, fresh out of medical college, super confident on the outside, but honestly, secretly terrified. Up until now, she'd only ever studied corpses in textbooks, so she's stepping into a very real and very unsettling environment.
And right away, we meet Raghu. He's this veteran morgue assistant who's been working in that exact room for 30 years. Picture this guy, white hair, hunched back, but his eyes just have this deep, imposing gravity to them. Basically, nothing happens in that morgue without his say-so. On Prachi's very first day, she walks in treating it like, just another standard government job, but Raghu stops her dead in her tracks with this incredibly haunting warning. He literally tells her that whoever approaches that fourth window might smile today, but will quietly disappear tomorrow. Now, Prachi, like a lot of us probably would, just kind of brushes this off at first as your typical hospital superstition.
Let's contrast the setup here for a second, because it's important. In this pre-independence era morgue, 3 of the windows were just totally normal. They let in light, gave some ventilation, basically representing the routine, mundane reality of everyday forensic work, right? But that fourth window, it was heavily restricted. It immediately gave off this intense sense of dread. It was this completely closed-off corner of the room, just wrapped in mystery. To Dr. Prachi, it was really just a locked, dusty space that didn't need any attention. She figured she'd just do her reports and go home. But man, the equilibrium of this room was so fragile.
So things go completely off the rails on a pitch-black Amavasya night. Prachi is running out of space in the morgue, and she accidentally places a table with a fresh corpse directly in front of that forbidden fourth window. Now, Amavasya, or the night of the new moon, is a huge deal in paranormal lore. And the wild part is, Prachi was totally unaware of the horrific door she was opening. She was literally just trying to do her job and manage the limited space. But placing that specific table right beneath that specific window, that was the catalyst. It completely disturbed whatever dormant energy was isolated over in that corner.
And the escalation is absolutely terrifying. It goes from a hospital myth to a very real nightmare incredibly fast. First, the overhead lights start flickering violently, even though the generator is running perfectly. Then, at like 2 a.m., in the dead silence of the morgue, Prachi hears it, this distinct scraping sound. It sounded exactly like fingernails dragging across the iron bars of the fourth window. She looks over, and the bars are actually bending, slowly bending, as if some unseen force is pulling them from the outside. Through this dense fog, she sees a faint yellow light, almost like a solitary candle burning out in the mist. Then, out of nowhere, this freezing gust of wind sweeps into the room, whipping the sheet right off the corpse. Prachi is just frozen, realizing for the absolute first time, they are not alone in there.
At this point, Dr. Prachi realizes this isn't just some one-off scare. This window is an active, deadly threat. There was this dark, hidden history that the hospital administration had been covering up. It stretches back 8 years to an initial tragedy, then to a horrific incident 6 years ago with another doctor, right up to a violent clash in the present day. We really need to map out exactly what happened to the people who failed to respect that fourth window. Raghu actually reveals what happened to a skeptic named Dr. Joshi 6 years prior. Dr. Joshi was this highly capable guy who completely dismissed superstitions. So, he's on a night shift, and according to Senior Nurse Kavita, who was there, he actually opens that specific window just to light a cigarette. The second he does, the strange smoke floods into the room. Kavita steps out for just a minute, and when she comes back, Dr. Joshi is on the floor. He's drenched in sweat, eyes wide open, just staring in absolute shock at something invisible by the window. He never even spoke about what he saw. He just quietly filed for a transfer. But crazy enough, just 2 weeks before the transfer went through, they found his dead body in the courtyard, right beneath that window. No physical injuries at all, just a face locked in that exact same paralyzing fear Kavita had seen that night. That incident is exactly why the hospital officially ordered the window permanently shut.
But the danger violently returns to the present day thanks to a careless ward boy named Ajay. Ajay was a fast worker, super popular, but he had a habit of cutting corners and didn't know the full history of the room. He sees some dust near the fourth window and just casually opens the latch to clean it. The absolute second his broom touches the window's mesh, a massive jolt, like a huge electric shock, shoots through his body. Out in the corridor, Nurse Kavitha suddenly feels this chilling breath on her neck. Then, at exactly 2:45 a.m., this blood-curdling scream echoes out of the morgue. She rushes in and finds Ajay dead on the floor, eyes bulging, mouth wide open in a permanent scream. And when she glances at the window, she sees the silhouette of a woman in a red sari shrouded in fog, just for a second before it vanishes. Ajay had repeated Dr. Joshi's fatal mistake.
So it really makes you wonder, right? What kind of trauma leaves a stain this dark? What exactly created this malevolent force that literally kills anyone who interacts with it? We've got a skeptic doctor and a careless ward boy, both dead with expressions of unimaginable terror. But Prachi realizes these are just the symptoms. She had to uncover the actual disease. So she marches straight into the office of Dean Ghosh, this strict 60-plus-year-old administrator who secretly knew that some things justify logic. She demanded to know the true origin story of the fourth window.
Section 1. Nidhi's Tragedy and the 8-Year-Old's Secret.
When Dr. Prachi finally confronts Dean Ghosh, he admits to a catastrophic break in hospital protocol. 8 years ago, an unidentified, violently murdered young woman named Nidhi was brought in. Her injuries were so severe, her face was so disfigured that her family couldn't even identify her. Because she was technically classified as an unclaimed body, she was just casually placed on a table directly under the fourth window. And here is the absolute crucial part. She was never given her final rites. The very next day, the doctor on duty completely vanished. The only traces left were blood-stained slippers and a belt found right beneath that window. Her body was never recovered. Dean Ghosh hid this terrifying fact for years. Dr. Prachi finally understood. This wasn't just some haunted corner. It was a literal altar of unresolved pain.
Knowing that standard logic wasn't going to fix this, Prachi convinces Dean Ghosh to let her bring in an experienced tantric on the very next Amavasya night. Baba Maheshwarnath sits right at the threshold of the morgue. He draws these protective lines using red sandalwood, creates a circle of basm, which is sacred ash, and begins his chanting. Prachi, literally risking her own life here, sets up a camera pointing directly at the fourth window. She stands her ground and demands that the spirit, who is so thirsty for justice, reveal itself.
And then, at exactly 3 a.m., the chains on the window start rattling violently. A freezing wind completely fills the morgue, and Prachi's camera screen just goes dead blank. Out of nowhere, Prachi hears a voice say, "Give me justice." A shadow actually materializes into the form of a girl. She has scorched skin, half-open lips, and she's wearing a blood-soaked sari. But the thing is, she didn't appear as a monster. She appeared as a victim. She spoke of her agony. She said she waited there every single night, that no one knew her truth, and because no one ever lit her funeral pyre, she was trapped and incomplete. Standing there, trembling, with tears in her eyes, Prachi doesn't react with terror. She reacts with profound compassion. She promises the spirit, right then and there, that she will personally see to her final rites. As she makes the solemn vow, Baba Maheshwarnath throws the sacred basm towards the window. This piercing scream echoes through the room. It was like the soul was finally vomiting out years of accumulated agony. The temperature in the room finally starts to normalize, though this really heavy sadness just lingers in the air. The Baba warns Prachi, though. He says the basm only gives temporary calm. Until the actual last rites are performed, the torment isn't truly over.
So, using this incredible combination of forensic science and spiritual empathy, Prachi tracks down Nidhi's family. The very next day, she digs into the archives and reopens this 8-year-old cold case. Using modern DNA testing and old hospital records, she actually locates them. When she tells them, they just weep. They had long given up any hope of their daughter finding peace. Baba Maheshwarnath hands the family the exact same basm he used during the ritual and tells them to treat it as her physical ashes. A week later, full religious rites are performed on the banks of the Ganges, and guess what? That exact same night, back at the Janpad Civil Hospital, the fourth window locked itself. No more rattling chains, no shadows, no freezing wind. The hospital administration hung a picture of a goddess over it and sealed it with a physical padlock. The horrific cycle of deaths had finally ended.
I want to leave you with this final thought for today's explainer. Are the ghosts we fear so much actually just victims? Are they just crying out for the closure that the living failed to give them? Dr. Prachi didn't go in there and defeat a monster. She just listened to a victim. It really challenges us to think about how much of what we label as terrifying is actually just trauma demanding to be acknowledged. It's a truly fascinating look at where forensic science meets the supernatural. Keep seeking the truth, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.